In a quiet corner of a Boston museum hangs a mysterious 19th-century painting. It's titled The Traveler at Dusk, and it depicts a lone figure holding a lantern, standing on a muddy path under a stormy sky. For years, this painting has been the subject of whispers and strange rumors. Visitors have sworn they've seen the traveler's eyes follow them, or his lantern flicker, or even his cloak shift ever so slightly in the painted wind. Most curators dismissed these stories as tricks of the light or overactive imaginations. But the tales persisted, growing more detailed and more frequent, turning the artwork into a local legend. One art historian, a brilliant and curious woman named Dr. Iris Thorne, became fascinated by the mystery. She had spent her career studying the minute details of classical art, but this painting felt different. The stories were too consistent, too specific. She couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was hidden within the canvas. Determined to uncover the truth, she received special permission to spend a night alone in the museum, setting up cameras and monitoring equipment aimed directly at the traveler at dusk. She wanted to prove, once and for all, whether the painting was truly alive. As the museum fell silent and the city outside slept, Arise watched her monitors intently. For hours, nothing happened. The painting remained perfectly still, a beautiful but inanimate object. She started to feel a bit foolish, wondering if she had wasted her time chasing a ghost story. But then, at exactly 2:13 in the morning, the impossible occurred. The figure in the painting began to move. It wasn't a subtle shift this time. The man turned, his painted form becoming three-dimensional, and he simply walked out of the frame. Arise stared in disbelief as the canvas, once occupied by the traveler, now showed only an empty, rain-swept path. The man was gone. Her heart pounded in her chest as she jumped up from her chair. The air in the gallery had turned cold, and the smell of damp earth and rain filled the room. On the polished floor, leading away from the empty painting, were fresh, muddy footprints. They were identical to the mud caked on the traveler's boots in the artwork. Shaking but driven by a need to understand, Arise followed the tracks. They led her through the silent halls of the museum, down a grand staircase, and straight to the main entrance doors, which were inexplicably unlocked. The footprints continued outside onto the rain-slicked pavement before vanishing into the night. Just as she stepped outside, confused and breathless, a soft, warm light appeared beside her. There he was, the traveler. He looked exactly as he had in the painting, his clothes from another century, his face weathered by time. In his hand, he held the lantern, which cast a steady, ethereal glow that seemed to push back the darkness. He looked at her with ancient, knowing eyes and spoke, his voice like the rustling of old leaves. "You must move," he said calmly now. Before Arise could even process what was happening, a tremendous cracking sound split the air. She looked up just in time to see a massive, ancient oak tree, weakened by the storm, toppling directly toward the museum entrance where she had just been standing. She scrambled back as it crashed down with a deafening roar, crushing the very spot she had occupied moments before. When the dust settled, Aris turned to thank her mysterious savior, but he was gone. She rushed back inside, her mind racing. There, hanging on the wall, was the painting, but it wasn't empty anymore. The traveler was back on his muddy path, lantern in hand, exactly as he had been before, except something was different. Arise looked closer, her eyes widening in astonishment. A new detail had been added to the scene. At the traveler's feet, almost hidden in the painted mud, was a single perfect oak leaf. From that day on, the legend of the traveler at dusk changed. He is no longer just a figure in a painting. He is a guardian, a silent protector who, it is believed, steps out of his world and into ours only when disaster is about to strike. He is the man who walks out of a painting to warn the unaware before returning to his canvas, leaving behind only a small token of his visit. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more mysteries.